Have you ever had one of those experiences in sim racing where a new mod comes along and you just can't stop driving it? Well, this mod is that one for me. Welcome to Sim Racing Bible, my name is Phil, and today we're in Assetto Corsa testing out the AC Legends GTC 60s class cars, and it's just going to be an absolute blast. So stay tuned, let's drive every single car and put them through their paces. Okay, so the first car we're going to be testing out in this pack is this one, the Alfa Romeo 33 Corsa Stradale. Now this one actually already features in Assetto Corsa. However, it has had a few updates and revisions for this particular mod, so it'd be interesting to see how it drives now in its new form. So let's take it on track and see how it goes. Okay, so here we are in the cockpit of the Alfa. We're at Goodwood for our testing purposes because where else are you going to go with some historic race cars? So let's go take it out for a drive and see how this little Alfa handles the curves of Goodwood. It sounds a bit ropey on low revs, but we're away. Oh, I'll tell you what, when it gets going though, what a sound. Okay, so we're starting off on the end of the lap here at Woodcut. I'm going to go through the chicane. Beat our way through the rather inviting walls, and then come up to start our first flying lap with the Alfa. Let it rev. Oh, this thing sounds amazing. Absolutely wonderful. Right, I'm going to leave it in fourth for Madswick, the first corner here. Kind of float it through here. And of course we're running traditional tyres as well with this particular mod, so we've got to be careful with the inputs that we put into it. We have a little lift through that, but we're still going sideways. Coming down towards St Mary's now, very, very fast part of the course. On the brakes, down a gear. And then second part of St Mary's, chuck it in, down to third. Car's moving around quite a lot underneath me, but as you would expect with a car of this age. Into 11th. They've got a curve on the inside, but we managed to catch the oversteer. Okay, so we've only driven half a lap of Goodwood with this car, and already it feels absolutely sensational. Sounds are incredible. Just screaming away in my ears. Down to Woodcut we come. Bit of a lock break there, but we're okay. Nice little slide halfway around. Now thread it through the chicane neatly. Oh. That's what I love about historic race cars, because not only have you got the sights, the sounds of them, but you can get them sideways and recover them, and it's just so rewarding. Even there, that was a long way sideways, but we brought it back and we're still going in the right direction. This car is really nice to drive, actually. A little bit of a lift, don't end up on the grass too much on the exit there. And hard on the brakes. Down to fourth. Bit of power in between. And to third, chuck it in. Wait for the track to drop away on the exit. This thing's so good. I'm gonna run off the exit there. Oh, this thing is incredible. What a start for the pack. We've only just driven the first car. And I already don't want to get out. It's just that good. But I'm gonna have to because we have a few more cars to cover. But we're gonna finish this lap off. Nice flowing lap of Goodwood. Hard on the power and up over the line we come. Just beautiful. Wow, what a start that was. Right, now, continuing the red theme, we're in this, the Bizzarini GT, the 5300 Corsa. This thing is one of my favourite looking 60s GT cars of all time. It's got a beautiful Italian styling. It has a raucous V8 under the bonnet, and I cannot wait to see what this thing's like to drive, so let's go. Okay, I cannot tell you how long I've waited for one of these cars to appear in any form of sim racing title, so to finally have it in Assetto Corsa in this pack, I am beyond excited to give this a go. So let's engage first gear, take a deep breath and see what it's like to drive. Bit of a bog start, but we're up and away. Oh, there's a lovely deep V8 rumble. I haven't even got it anywhere near the red line yet. Just take it nice and easy around to the start-finish straight, then we will unleash the beast. So through the chicane we go. Right, here we go then. Let's give it some. Oh, listen to that. Wow. And the popping and banging on the overrun as well. Oh, that just sounds absolutely superb. I'm going to lift off a little bit for forward water because I'm not entirely sure how quickly I can take it in this car just yet. And back hard on the power again as we come towards St Mary's in third gear. It's the noise on the overrun. Down to second. Right, okay. Sounds fantastic, absolutely top spec. Right, car feels heavier than the Alpha. It feels a bit more wallowy, which you would expect because it is a much larger car than the Alpha. And the steering feels lighter as well. And a bit vague, but kind of par for the course with these era of cars, so that's okay. Down towards Woodcut, hard on the brakes. Oh. You know what? People love accelerating hard and going up through the gears and hearing a car going faster and faster, but for me, I look forward to braking and downshifting in this thing. That is just beautiful. What a thing. Handling wise, it does move around quite a bit, but again it's easily controllable in terms of, you know, catching the oversteer, the slidey moments. Let's try and be a bit braver through forward water. Ooh, there's a bit of a cut, but we're still going. But yeah, once you get over the initial hesitation of wanting to go into some of these corners, you can apply a bit of throttle to try and rotate the car. Bit of a lift-off oversteer moment into the second part of St Mary's there, but we got away with it again. So you just have to play with the steering and the throttle inputs to try and encourage the car to get through the corner and out of it in one piece. But that's what I love about historic motorsport. It's just a pure driving experience. It's on the edge the whole time. Wow. This thing, was it worth the wait? Oh yes, I think it was. Through Woodcut once again to finish the lap through chicane. Ooh, that's a big wobble. And we managed to get it over the curb in the grass and we're back down the straight. Okay, so moving reluctantly onwards, I've managed to tear myself away from my beloved Bizzarini. But I have another problem because I've come across this, the Corvette Stingray. This is going to be another one of those cars which I think is just going to blow my mind. So I'm looking forward to trying this one. Let's jump on track and see how it goes. Okay, so some more V8 action coming your way. Let's see what this one's like. Already sounds a little bit more violent than the Bizzarini. But then the Italian Bizzarini is probably a little bit more refined. This is just all out. Give me a V8 power. This sounds so good, just as good as the Bizzarini did. Right, let's give it a full bit of throttle. Yeah, the audio team have been doing their job and they've done a fantastic job so far with these 3 cars we've driven. Sounds are absolutely amazing. Some subtle differences between this and the Bizzarini. Very subtle, you can tell they're different. But they still both sound like a proper V8. Only 4 gears to use in this car and I'm already running out of them. Coming down the straights into St Mary's Part 2. Let it slide beautifully through there. Just can't get over those sounds, they're just so good. Anyway, what about the car? Well, aside from my wayward driving, the Corvette actually seems to turn in better than the Bitserini. You can actually get it turned into the apex with very little fuss, really. The Bitserini, you have to kind of fight it in there just to make sure that the front end goes where it's supposed to. Whereas with this, you can get the car slowed down, turn it in, and it just heads straight exactly where you're wanting it to go. And then, of course, you do have to be ready to catch it on the other side, because it will try and come around on you. No questions asked. But you can control it, you can catch it, and it's absolutely fine. So, just epic fun, to be honest, just driving this thing. And to Madrid for the next time. Get that car under control, Phil. I don't know if I can, this thing is just an animal. But in a good way. Huge turn of speed as we come up to St Mary's. There you go, so we're able to get the front end in, and then a little bit of a slide to catch partway around. Probably not the quickest way around, but when it's this much fun, who really cares? It's just incredible. Get that power down, because you're going to need it all the way down this straight. Up on the rev limiter, and then hard on the brakes for woodcut. Try not to cut too much of that curve on the inside. Just fighting a little bit through the chicane there, but we're up and away. Oh, 3 out of 3. Right, so for the fourth car in this particular mod, we're heading back over to Italy. And of course you can't have a 60s GT mod without having a Ferrari 250 GTO. Now again, this is a car model which is used in the base Assetto Corsa packs. However, again, it's been improved and enhanced by the team behind the mod, so curious to see how this drives as well. I'm sure if it's anything like the rest of them, it'll be top notch too, so let's go and find out. Okay, so trust Ferrari to bring the style to the party. We have a beautiful wooden steering wheel to virtually hold onto, and of course the interior is just sublime anyway. So let's see what this V12 Ferrari has in store for us. Of course it has that rather tuneful engine note. It's also got a little bit of an interesting noise on low revs, but when you release it to its full RPM glory, it just sounds like that. It's just unbelievable. Right, so the Ferrari 250 GTO, one of the most expensive cars in the world at one point, probably surpassed now by some of the more modern technological supercars. But this car, not only has it got this amazing V12 engine soundtrack to enjoy, it also looks just absolutely spot on. From any angle you can look at a 250 GTO and just be blown away by its beauty. It's really one of those cars which is just right from every angle. But it also handles nicely. And you would expect that from Ferrari. Ferrari rarely make cars which don't drive well. And this car is quite positive on the turn-in, so you can be reasonably accurate for it. For an old 60s car, you can actually be quite precise. So that sound is just perfect in your ears. Down to woodcut we come, down to third gear. Use the throttle just to kind of help rotate the car through, as you do with most of these cars. but far less drama driving this than in any of the other cars. Obviously the big V8s were going sideways constantly, but this you can be much more in control. Of course it's still going to go sideways if you provoke it, but in general it's much more well behaved. So if you're looking for a car to jump into to start off with, just to kind of get used to this era of car, the 250 GTO might just be the one to start off with. Reasonably forgiving. And very rewarding too when you get it right. So even there, a little bit of oversteer, but nothing too much to worry about. Easily brought back under control. It's now trying to prove me wrong, but it's okay. It's all part of the fun of driving these things. Every lap is an adventure. I love the air scoops on the bonnet as you look out. And again, it's another one of those bonnets which just has beautiful lines to it. You can have a good idea of where to place the car, especially through the chicane here. You know where the corners are, so you don't run them into a very solid wall. But yeah, again, great work and another really fabulous car. However, do not fear, Ferrari fans, there are more. This is the Ferrari 250 Series 2, as it is known in the title. I would probably call this a Ferrari 250 LM, but it's the wider, more streamlined, more aerodynamic variant of the 250 GTO. So more Ferrari goodness, and of course it's in Ferrari red. What other colour would we possibly choose? So let's go and see what this one's like in comparison to the 250 GTO Series 1. Okay, so here in the 250 LM, again we have that wonderful V12 engine in front of us, and we have a wooden steering wheel again. Slightly different interior, obviously, it's a slightly different body shell. So let's see what this car is like to drive in comparison to its standard 250 GTO. As we nearly stall that off the line, and then instantly cure that with some V12 music. So let's take it nice and easy again, just as we come up to the start-finish line, and we'll see what it's capable of doing. Here we go. Third gear, loads of torque, just pulling all the way through the revs. Oh, it sounds so good. Right, down towards Madrick. Front end looks a little bit wider, so it's harder to see where your wheels are in comparison to the apexes, so a little bit harder to be as accurate, but I'm sure you can learn to figure out where everything is in due course. Bit of a understeer as you go too quickly through Ford water. Down to St Mary's we come for the first time. Again, it feels like a car which is quite sophisticated and sorted to drive. Not too much drama, although the gearing does seem to be quite short. I don't think I need to go down to second gear for Lavant next time. I just use all that torque from that huge engine. But again, it's a car that you can be reasonably accurate with. Down towards Woodcut, we'll hang it out to the left and then swing it into the right. And it will just go in on that nice constant angle of steering. It'll just do exactly what you ask it to do. Effectively, it's really quite responsive. You can also get the power down quite early in this car as well, without even worrying too much about the rear end coming around on you. Ooh, it's a bit early down to third gear for Madrick. Let's try and coax that rear end round. Nope, not going to happen. I'll completely flat out then. Right, up towards Ford Water, fifth gear, little lift. Ride the curve on the inside. Make sure we don't run off onto the grass on the exit. Just going to go down to fourth of the first part here. Now this is where the back end will come around if it wants to. Even then, very little amount. So a little bit of a backing in moment into 11th, but again, I'm able to regain it. Yeah, car again is very, very easy to drive, really. When I say easy to drive, compared to some of the other cars, which are just all over the place in terms of handling, but it's quite standard and quite nice and easy to pick up and just turn some laps in. Just like the other Ferrari, the other 250 GTO, the earlier version. But that's not to say it's not very nice to drive, it is still very nice to drive. Okay, so this is the first of the British cars we're looking at in the pack, and it is this, the Austin Healey 3000, or known as the Big Healey. This thing is a really pretty car. I really love its simple basic lines, and it's got a lovely Jaguar 6-cylinder engine under the bonnet. Obviously rear-wheel drive as well. This one's going to be a real fun car to drive, and I'm looking forward to this one. Okay, so here we are inside the Healey. Cockpit-wise, it looks a little bit basic, but I'm sure the main joy of this car is going to be in the driving, so let's go and experience that now. Oop. Let's pull away, shall we? Right, so as we mentioned, Jaguar engine under the bonnet. And I'm expecting an extremely lively rear axle because that's how Healeys just are. Let's go through the chicane. It's already feeling a little bit wayward. As we accelerate away. That lovely 6 cylinders of sound coming from the engine in front of us, out that long bonnet. Into Madrick then. Car already feels pretty leery actually, so let's see what happens when we pick the pace up a little bit more. Only 4 gears in this car, as is the case with a lot of the 60s cars. 5 gears weren't really commonplace amongst car designers at that point. It's going to leave it in 4th into St Mary's, down to 3rd for the second part. Hit that curb. Ooh, there's the rear end going around. Just how you would expect it. Watching these cars going around tracks in real life, you see the rear end moving around an awful lot, and occasionally the front wheels lifting as well. And I'm pretty sure it would feel like one of these to drive, because this car is going to be a bit of fun. Running out of revs on the straight once again. Hard on the brakes. Down to 3rd. It's very lively. When you come off the brakes and you try and turn the car in, it moves, and it's quite nervous in a way. Down to 2nd that early, but hard on the power. And how do we go? Down the start finish straight again. Okay, let's push on a little bit more and see just how leery this thing is to drive. There we go, already sideways into the first corner. Oh, I love this era of motorsport. It is literally the best. Some of the most amazing cars. Leave it in 4th for the first bit. Get it tucked in. Bit of a flick into the left-hander, and then big broadside on the way out. That's a little deep into 11, but we can pull it back just about. Fair amount of arm waving going on to keep this thing under control. Down the straight once more. So plenty of power from the Jaguar engine, it will get you down the straight very quickly indeed. Very soft on the suspension, so the car rolls around quite a lot. But that's what makes it so forgiving on the handling front as well. Magnificent. Awesome stuff. So, from Jaguar engines to Jaguar engines plus chassis plus body shell, this is the Jaguar E-Type, the hard-top version of it. One of the most beautiful 60s designs you can possibly imagine. and here showing the iconic Cut 7 registration livery. This car is just so popular in historic motorsport these days. There's so many of them racing all around the world, and it's with good reason, because these cars handle beautifully. So, curious to see how that drives myself. Let's go on track and try it out. So again, being a British car, it's right-hand drive. So let's see what happens when you put all that Jaguar stuff together with the engine, the chassis, and the body shell. There's that familiar Jaguar rasp. If anything, the sounds are a little bit quieter than the other cars we've driven, but the sampling there is still just as good, and you get that lovely noise. Alright, let's go and give this thing a bit of treatment around Goodwood. This is where they are so successful at the revival. This particular car has been driven in anger by World Touring Car Champion Rob Huff. Bit of understeer through Madgwick on the first time through. Such a lovely sound. Very smooth engine. Power delivered all the way through the rev range. Definitely hear the tyres an awful lot more on this car. It's quite nice actually. You can just hear just how much you're pressing on. And this very sophisticated jack. Yeah, second gear's probably, again, too low for Lavant. But it's beautifully balanced actually, driving this. It does get sideways, but again, not uncontrollably so. Leave it for third for Woodcut. Woo, there's a curb on the exit. That's happened a few times in real life. Let's get it stopped for the chicane and don't hit anything. Okay, we're good. That chicane is really intimidating when you get it wrong. Right, here we go. Into Madgwick again. There we go. Big slide all the way through. Oh, man. I love the Union Jack keyring hanging off the dash there on the ignition. Nice touch. This is very much the epitome of British sports cars. When you think of British sports cars, most of the time, an E-Type will come to mind. There's the envy of Enzo Ferrari for its beauty. And I love it too. It is really, really nice. Never really preferred the hardtop, this version, over the coupe, but you can't say it's not nice to look at. But none of that really matters, because what really matters is what it drives like, and this drives absolutely beautifully. Again, another car that really puts a huge smile on your face. So, from one Jaguar E-Type to another, this is the Jaguar E-Type Lightweight. Now, this is the coupe design. It hasn't got the long, sloping, hard top back, just the coupe design. Lighter in weight means better handling, and overall, a much better version of the car. So I'm looking forward to see what the difference is between this and the standard E-Type version we just tried. So let's have a look, see how they compare. So as the engineers developed the Jaguar E-Type over time, the weight started to fall off the car in a bid to make it handle even better. So the proof is in the pudding. Let's see what this is like to drive. Again, there's that lovely tyre squeal as we pull away. And of course, that Jaguar engine note. Oh, hello. Something's all of a sudden become rather feisty. The tyre lock up into the chicane there, just to fill you with confidence. Right, here we go. Oh. Jaguar engine just sounds so good. Right. What's it like through the corners? Okay, that felt a little bit understeery, but I could have gone in there a little bit too quick. We'll reserve judgment just yet. Just about nipping the grass on the exit. Oh, so far. Definitely feels a bit more refined than the coupe. Yep. Oop. It does go sideways just as much. But it does feel a little bit more sorted actually, driving this. It seems to corner a little bit more level, so it's not rolling around as much as the hardtop. Down to third gear. Might be able to get away with second gear for woodcut actually, looking at that. Just chuck it through the chicane. Just feel the weight of it transfer from one side to the other, and then you just throw it at the apex and it goes in, so it's good. Okay, through Magic again. Went down to second gear then, should have done, but it's okay. Yeah, so car does feel a little bit more sorted. But it does also feel excellent to drive. Especially around here at Goodwood, you've got these flowing corners. Oh. It just really suits this style of car. You just let it flow from corner to corner. And then in between just press the loud pedal and watch it just take off. Down to second this time for woodcut, that's better. Okay, this is one that's going to make you want to drive and drive and drive and just turn endless laps. Because no lap is the same, but every one is just as enjoyable. No era of 60s motorsport will be complete without the name of Lotus on the sign-up sheet for the event. This is the Lotus Elan S1 26R, and this thing is a real giant killer in this category because you've got the likes of the Corvettes and the Ferraris and the E-Types with the big power, and this thing with very little power but excellent handling capability. So curious to see how that translates across in the mod in terms of how this car handles compared to the other cars that we've already driven. So let's take it on track to Goodwood and find out. So the first thing you notice when you jump in the Lotus Elan is that beautiful wood dash in front of you. Now this car is all about lightweight and high performance, but yeah, we still have really heavy materials being used inside the car. But besides the point, let's go see what this car's like to drive. That's the main thing. We have a Lotus twin cam engine in this car, which is a 4-cylinder, but still sounds pretty good. Now, this car should all be about corner speeds, late braking, and carrying speed through the corners. So let's see how it gets on. Down towards Madrid for the first time. Already feels pretty light and reasonably quick, but I don't know whether that's just because the car is so small and you're much lower down to the ground. But either way, it does feel like you can take a lot more speed through the corners. Up to forward water we go. And I actually felt brave enough to take that completely flat out because of the handling of the car. On the brakes for St. Mary's. Oh yeah, there's so much more corner speed. You can see why this thing is an absolute giant killer. Because while everyone else is busy scrabbling around trying to put the power down or get the car to rotate through the corners because of all the soft suspension, this thing literally just grips, goes, and stops better than everything else. Down to the woodcut double apex right-hander. Probably go down to second through there, but either way we got through there pretty quickly. A quick flick through the chicane as well, and we're back out onto the straight. This little car is so good. Now, it's very easy for people, I can imagine, to jump into the sim, instantly go for one of the big V8s or the Ferraris or whatever it may be, and overlook this car. And I implore you, please do not overlook this car, because you will enjoy driving this just as much as everything else. It is equally worthy of your attention. You can just really set the car up as you go into the corners. A little bit of a slide, but instantly back on the power. And it's all back under control again with relatively no fuss, so one very nicely sorted car. Let's see how much speed we can take through Woodcut this time. Be brave. Oh, that's too far up. Luckily there's a bit of time to catch us. So maybe not quite that quick. However, it's still very, very impressive. Now our next car is not one that you'll find very often at historic motorsport events around the world. This is the Mercedes-Benz 300 SL and the Gullwing version of that. Now the reason for that is because this car is incredibly rare. It is also incredibly beautiful both inside and out. And I'm very curious to see how this thing is going to drive on track, because there's not many of these around, and I'm sure not many of them raced in period in this spec. So let's see what this is like compared to the rest of the cars we've already driven. Okay, so sitting in the cockpit of this Mercedes, just look at this. I mean, you've got this beautiful red leather and metal, highly polished interior dashboard and this beautiful old steering wheel. It's just so old looking, but it's super, super stylish. Well, all that's going to look very nice going sideways around Goodwood, so let's go and see what this thing is like. Oh, listen to that. You know what, that's not quite what I was expecting it to sound like. I knew it had a V8, but I was not ready for that noise. Oh, it feels wallowy. Well, that sounds awesome. And it moves around after that little Lotus. It's very different to drive. With the reflections on the centre of the steering wheel there as well, you can see mirroring because it's so highly polished. That's really neat. Alright, get on the brakes, get this thing slowed down. It just doesn't look like it's meant to do stuff like this. But somehow it's managing quite capably. It feels a lot more wayward compared to some cars in the pack. But then you kind of expect it to be. Not as developed as some of the other cars. It certainly goes a fair ton of speed down these straights. Again, the downshifts. The rev match just sounds incredible. Don't touch the wall in this incredibly rare and expensive car. What a special thing this is. It really, really is. kind of get into the dip in the first corner there and gets all confused, doesn't quite know what to do with itself. So it just throws you sideways and says, deal with that. Nice little lift through there, just for comfort's sake. And sideways through the first part. Oop. All over the curb in the second bit. Well, this has actually been quite a pleasant surprise to drive this car and feel just how fun it is to throw around. I wouldn't have thought it would be, but it really is actually very nice to drive. All while doing it in such incredible style. Oop. That's not the line through Woodcut. Well, this certainly is a silver arrow. Wonderful. From one German marque to another, this is the Porsche 904 GTS. Now this car is very different to look at compared to some of the other cars in the class because it looks more like a prototype car. But it still ran in period with these types of cars and also in modern day historic racing as well. It's got the oh so familiar Porsche 6-cylinder engine on board, and I'm sure this is going to be just as much fun to drive as everything else we've driven this evening. Let's go find out what it's like. Sitting inside the Porsche 904, what I do love is you look out over the bonnet and you can see both the beautiful bullet mirrors on the wings there. It's just so classic and so retro, and I love it. Inside the car, some nice hand-stitched leather on the dashboard there and some basic switchgear, but a really nice looking interior actually to this thing. Oh, let's go try this out as well. Yeah, there's that 6-cylinder noise. Oh wow, that's already feeling very, very sorted and nicely balanced as well. With a light over the dashboard there. Well, this makes a nice noise, doesn't it? It feels a little bit like the Lotus through the corners, actually very nicely sorted. But again, because it's so low down to the ground, and probably quite stiffly sprung compared to some of the other cars, there's not really much in the way of body roll, which is clearly evident in some of the cars. And that means you're able to corner flat and level and carry speed. Ooh, that's a little bit too quick into the second part of the same areas, but kept it on the island. That lovely low down growl from the engine sounds so good. Down the straight we go, revving up to 8,000 RPM. Just absolutely singing. And again, through Woodcut, almost feels like it's on rails in comparison to some of the cars. Braking late into the chicane. Okay. I really am going to struggle to pick a favourite out of all these, because they're all so good in their own unique way. This car is so neutral to drive. There's really little fuss going on, despite having the very basic tyres. Pushing on again through here, let's get it slowed down. Ooh. Look at that, just turns straight in. nose into the apex, and you can get hard on the power and accelerate all the way out on 11. It's just effortless to drive in almost. But again, thoroughly enjoyable despite it being less of a handful than some of the other cars we've driven. You still got to balance it. It still requires some finesse. Wow, this one's good as well. Staying with Porsche for our next car, this is what you think of when you hear the name Porsche. This is a 911, specifically the 911R. This version, again using that same 6-cylinder engine, is where the roots of the 911 really came alive. And I'm excited to see how we look back in time at this early days version of this car to see what it's like to drive. So let's go jump on track and see what it's like. So here we are sat in the 911R, and straight away I can see that someone's pinched my Porsche badge from the centre of my steering wheel. I can just see straight through to the steering boss on the column. But that's not going to hamper our performance anyway. Let's give this a go and see what it's like to drive. Again, that familiar Porsche engine note. Straight away, you can tell, compared to the 904, there's some body roll we have to deal with here as we lurch our way through the chicane with a little bit of sideways action. And again, great sounds. Probably not go down to third gear for turn 1, we'll leave it in 4th, I think. Onto the first of the long straights. The 911 is one of those cars which just seems to be around forever, but again has stayed true to its form in the fact that it's kept its rear engine layout. So this of course is rear engined as well, which means that when it does go sideways we might have to be a bit careful to try and bring it back in line, because with all that weight hanging over the rear axle, if it gets sideways sometimes it might just want to keep going that way and not come back. However, having said that, through 11 that time round, rear end got sideways and was actually reasonably controllable. Now of course this is naturally aspirated, so there's no turbo boost kicking in at the wrong moment and exaggerating that sideways movement, so it's a little bit more controllable. Back end having a bit of a complain as we enter the first part of the woodcut. Just missed the wall on the inside, I was close. Very nice to drive so far. We've done one lap. Let's see how the second one goes. Nope, don't go down to third gear, Phil. I've already told you not to do that. Sorry, Porsche. Didn't mean it. But again, this car feels really nice to drive. It's quite happy to go into the apexes. It's not ungainly on the brakes. It feels like you can really throw it around and be quite rough with it actually. You can actually throw it into corners and it's not going to completely throw you off. Look at that big sideways into 11. Use the curb on the outside to keep me on track. And again, just another really fun car to drive. All have their own individual unique handling characteristics, but none of them provide you with the same driving experience. Ah, that's just superb. We return to some good old-fashioned American muscle with our next car. This is the Shelby Cobra, the roadster version without a roof, and this particular car is known for being an absolute animal to drive. So will that translate in the mod? There's only one way to find out. Okay, so here we are sat in the Cobra with not an awful lot around us to keep us safe. We have a tiny little bit of a windshield just in front of the steering wheel here to keep the wind off our face. I don't think that's going to stop much, so here we go. Let's try this car out now. This is going to be probably the scariest car to drive in the pack, I would suggest. So let's go find out. Ah, listen to it. Right, we're not going to go too mad straight away because, to be honest, I want to make sure we get around this lap without introducing myself to the barriers. Okay, let's feed ourselves through the chicane and then let it loose down the straights. With all that wonderful V8 power. Down towards Mazurek. Get on the brakes nice and early, get it slowed down. Oop, there's the rear end. Okay, it's definitely got oversteer, as you would expect. It's a Cobra. Definitely lifting for forward water, that is a given. Oop, even so, still don't need to hit that curb. Down towards St. Mary's we go, just easing ourselves in here. Car's moving around quite a bit, and this is definitely the corner for finding the oversteer. But having said that, there is oversteer there, but it is reasonably controllable, as long as you're sensible with it. You try to be a little bit too ambitious, there's a potential for it to bite. It is a Cobra after all. But as long as you're a little bit restrained with your right foot, and you have quick hands, you can actually drive it and catch the slides. Because those tyres and the slip angle just allow for balancing the car on the absolute limit, going sideways. We need these cars. We've definitely needed these cars. It's definitely a challenge to drive. If you want something that's challenging to drive, you jump in a Cobra. And this is certainly not disappointing. But very rewarding as well. I mean, when you string together a lap in a Cobra, you know you've done well. It does flatter you when you get it right as well. You just look like such a hero. But all that time, it's just one little input away from finding the fence. Just play with the throttle just to try and figure out where the grip is. What an epic machine. Okay, having picked all the bugs out of my hair and my teeth from the last Cobra we drove, let's have a bit of civilization, a bit of a return to normality with a roof. This is the Cobra hardtop 289 version, very similar to the previous car, except you have a roof over your head and probably a bit less buffeting. So let's go see what this one's like in comparison to its roofless brother. Ah, that's better. I have a roof over my head, much more normal. Here we go then, big steering wheel in front of us, a nice window to shove your arm out of as you cruise along in your hardtop Cobra. Is this going to be any different to drive than the Roadster version? There's only one way to find out. Woo! Same power output as the Roadster. I love these cars. I mean, they're just so cool. I mean, look at the dashboard. You got all those gauges looking at you in this beautiful curve. Oh, in fact, if anything, this feels a little bit more wayward than the Roadster version. Okay, up to forward water again. Little lift. Back on the power. The hardtop Cobras for me actually look a little bit nicer. They just seem a bit sleeker and more pleasant on the eye. But that doesn't mean they're any easier to drive. Yeah, still just as challenging. Simply epic. Right, down to Woodcote again. Hard on the brakes. Being drum brake sports cars, as most of these cars are, in real life they end up losing their braking performance over the course of a lap, and obviously we're only doing a couple of laps at a time, so we don't really get to experience that, but you might have to be a little bit careful with your brakes if you're running these in a longer race. But again, the car, despite being relatively twitchy with its handling, you can actually be quite accurate with it when you want to. If you don't go into a corner just absolutely gung-ho and just throwing everything at it, you can actually be very precise with it. So let's get it slowed down here. Running out to the right hand side, turn it in. And just let it just do its thing on the exit. And then again, it just got it into the apex and just feed the power in nicely. Balance the car on the exit. And all is well, it's nice and easy. Just so good. And then again, it really is causing a headache trying to figure out which car I want to drive more on this particular pack. Big handful of opposite lock out of the chicane, and then we're up and away once again, up through the gears. Luckily there was some grass to catch me there. The concluding car in this fabulous pack of cars is this, the Shelby Mustang GT350R, and it's just an absolutely beautiful thing to look at from all angles. So, for one final time, let's go to Goodwood and test this car out. I'm sure it's going to be stunning. So, the final piece of the puzzle is this Shelby Mustang GT350R. And again, we have a V8 soundtrack as we leave some huge 11s on the 11th straight as we pull away. Now this car has got a lot riding on its shoulders, because can it make a full house of absolutely superb cars for the entire mod? Every car we've driven has been absolutely spectacular. Can this make it a complete set? Well, on sound front, it's already looking very positive. It sounds incredible. Oh, it's sideways out of Madgewick as we fire off down the straight. Now this car is quite a big car really, very heavy, and it feels a little bit soft on its suspension. So you'd imagine it to be perhaps not quite as poised as some of the other cars. But it still knows how to go sideways with the best of them. You're literally fighting it all the way through. But in a nice way, not in a I'm trying to keep control and I can't kind of way. Just in a, okay, you want to go sideways, that's fine, I'll work with you. I'll let you go sideways if you let me drive fast. Threading a huge Mustang through the chicane, and we've managed to do it without hitting anything miraculously. Down towards Madrick again. And there it is, the sideways oversteer moment. We balance the car all the way through whilst being hard on the power. Well, this car has done it. I'm quite happy to say that every single car in this pack is an absolute masterpiece. So full credit to Bazza and the full team of guys who have been working on this mod. It is very, very worth downloading. And if you're a fan of historic motorsport, it is an absolute must-have. Even missing the apex there, he still managed to make it in to the corner and out of it, sideways. But yeah, this mod is absolutely spectacular. Every single car drives differently, they all sound differently, they all handle differently. Some of them have 4 gears, some of them have 5. I'm still learning it. But really, really impressive. Through the chicane once more. And a big sideways. Right, let's wrap things up with our overall thoughts of this mod and watch some of these cars from the outside. So, the AC Legends GTC 60s mod, what do we like about it? Well, first of all, there's the sounds, because to be honest, just listen to them. They're absolutely outstanding. It sounds so good. Every single car has its own unique sound and they all sound amazing. The way the cars drive as well, absolutely fantastic. They all have a different driving dynamic and they're all so fun to drive on the limit, and you're just throwing them around and just balancing the car on the throttle and the steering. Just so much fun. The dynamic of the racing as well. I mean, you've got the different cars. You've got the Healy here chasing this little Milan, and then you've got the Cobra coming in behind it as well. I mean, it's just got such different variety, and it makes for some really fun, exciting racing as well. So, big thank you to the guys who've created the mod and put it out there for us to download and try. It really is absolutely stunning, and I'll put a link in the description as well, so you can try it out for yourselves. Also, if you're new here, please do consider subscribing to the channel, and if you've liked this video, please do hit the like button as well. We'd really love to hear from you. And also, leave a comment below and let us know which car you like the best, because there's so many cars in this mod. I'm sure there's someone who's got a favourite out there. But as for me, can I pick a favourite? I'm sorry, I just can't. We'll see you next time.